let me stop right there. I knew Lynn as Lynn. That's what I give her name, and I grew up with Lynn. I don't know how many of you know the story, but sometime in Lynn's life, 20-some years ago, she decided that she didn't like that name anymore. She wanted to be called Diana. So she went downtown, and she had her name changed to officially Diana Lynn Hipp. She didn't only change her name. When she met Dina's children for the first time, she changed all their names. She said, you don't look like a Charles, you don't look like an Amy, you don't look like, she just went through the whole thing, and she named every child a different name. So from then on, jokingly, we all called them by a different name. Not sure they appreciated it. At the end, and I can't talk while Dina told me. I'm supposed to do the Reader's Digest version of these stories, so bear with me. At the end, Lynn started calling me by a different name. We were always close with our family. We were saved in this church. We went to this church when we were 12 years old, 10 years old, and this was the church that we both were saved in. So we were close as children. At the very end, when Lynn was really sick, she started calling me 20 questions. And that was my new name. And every time she saw me, every time I talked to her, she said, what are you doing here, 20 questions? The reason was because I lived in Salisbury, North Carolina, and she lived here. I would call her to see how she was doing. And so I'd say, how are you feeling? Or what did you have to eat today? Or did you do okay today? And so she said, it's just 20 questions all the time with you. And I said, I have no other way of finding out, so that's what I have to do. It became a joke. Lynn, to me, was, I found out later, after I read some of the medical reports, that Lynn was bipolar. I never knew that Lynn was bipolar. So that answered some of the questions about the day she hated me and the day she loved me. So one day she would like me, one day she wouldn't. So I just called her up and said, what's today number one or number two? I had no idea. And that's just the way we ended it. And we were close. When Mama, as you know, our mother died 5 years ago. And Mama asked me to take care of her. And like I said, I had never been real close to Lynn from the standpoint of being adults. We were as children, but as adults, we sort of had our own separate lives. And so I wasn't extremely close to her. But my mother said, when I die, you've got to take care of Lynn. And I said, I can't do that. She's an adult. She has her own husband. She has her own life. And my mother, I don't know if you remember my mother, a lot of you know my mother, she dwelt on Lynn. She did a lot for Lynn. Lynn needed a lot of attention, and my mother gave it to her. But I said to her, I can't do that. I can't be that person. I became that person. I didn't realize how bad Lynn was. I didn't understand her mental condition. So I became that person that I called her every day. I called my mother every day for 30 years. So I started calling Lynn every day for her last 5 years. And the first 3 or 4 years was great because we'd tell stories and we'd laugh and cut up and everything. And I sort of enjoyed getting back to knowing her and getting back to being friends with her again. But then, of course, the last year she became extremely bipolar, extremely versatile in her emotions. And so any of you that visited her, and most of the time she wouldn't answer the phone, most of the time she wouldn't let anybody come to her house. So a lot of people didn't see it that wanted to. And the ones that did come was probably embarrassed by some of the things she said. And I'm not speaking negatively about Lynn. I want to explain to you that she was on a lot of medications. She had a whole lot of problems, a lot of issues. And I want you to be aware that anything that she said to you in the last few months of her life, she didn't mean it, that it was a medicine or her condition that made her say some of those things. So I apologize to everybody personally that I know of, but anybody that I missed, I just want to let you know that Lynn was still the sweet girl inside that she had always been. Our relationship was, like I said, up and down, and I loved her. We were just on different cycles a lot of times, and so it seemed like every time we got together we had an argument. And Steve Wanda, who I grew up with, can attest to it. Y'all ever agree to anything? And I said, well, not really. And it's just the way we were. It was just a condition of our relationship. But Lynn always said that Mom liked me best, so that wasn't true. But she gave me a T-shirt one year for Christmas that said Mom likes you best, and I'll put it on the warrant. I mean, what the heck, live with this. And Mom didn't. Lynn was the youngest, so Lynn needed a lot of attention and adulation. So, and she got it. Mama gave it to her, just like we give our daughter, Roxy. If you've seen our daughter, Dean's carrying her around. She goes everywhere with us, and she gets a lot of attention. So that's the type of life that Lynn needed. I couldn't carry her around. There's too many stories I could tell you that that maybe explains some of Lynn's thoughts. When I was growing up, my mother and father paid for an art course. I was fairly decent in art. And they paid for me an art course back in the 60s, and it was about $1,400 to $1,800. It's a lot of money back then. And Lynn, my mother was always fair about treating us fairly, and so they bought Lynn a brand new Mustang for her, and of course that was 1964. That brand new Mustang was $1,800. So she had the Mustang for about 2 weeks, and she drove it to work one day, and a convict had stolen it. He broke into the car and stole the car, and kept it about 2 or 3 weeks, and put many miles on it in those 2 weeks, sold her spare tire and all that. And just to tell you how Lynn was, when we got it back, the insurance company says, we'll buy you a brand new one. And Lynn said, no, I like that car, I want to keep that car. So she was so strong in her convictions that she wanted to keep that car instead of getting a brand new car, which I certainly chose a brand new car. I tell you that to tell you that she was strong-willed. And 4 months ago, in the hospital in July, in Cone Hospital, I met with her doctors, and she was there with us. And they told her at that time that you were going to die if you don't go on dialysis. And she said, what's my other choice? And they said, your other choice is to go on hospice. She said, what do I do in hospice? She said, you basically just wait to die. But you can eat anything you want. Well, it was really hard for Lynn, and I'm not making fun, because I think she's very brave. As someone told me the other day, I think my cousin Carol said, that was a brave to choose death when she could have chosen a longer life. She chose the way she wanted to go, just like she chose that Mustang, keeping her old Mustang, which was brand new. She was a person that had her own ideas about life, and she lived a complete full life in her 74 years. She did everything she wanted to do. She went against the grain. She did things other people didn't do. That was Lynn. And if you understood Lynn, you were okay. If you didn't understand Lynn, you thought she was a little weird. But she wasn't. She was just different in her ideas of what she wanted. She said to me, I want to live life like I want to live it. I want to die the way I want to die. She did last 3 months instead of 2 months. They had told her, I think she had 2 months. And she did live 3 months. But she told me that that's what she wanted to do. I begged her to go on dialysis, and she wouldn't do it. I only tell you this because it was important to her to die with dignity, to die on her terms, and that's what she did. So I think it's very brave, as my cousin Carol said. I think it's something that she chose, and I think that many people don't have the guts to do some of the things they want to do sometimes, but Lynn did. So my reason to tell you these things is to let you know there's another side of Lynn, a different side of Lynn that maybe you didn't know, or maybe you didn't appreciate. But Lynn was a better person than probably I am. She loved everybody. She cared for people. She didn't have a filter. I don't know how many of you know that she was in a wreck about 25 years ago and was unconscious for 2 weeks. A lot of her brain cells were gone, lost in that wreck. So Lynn had no filter. So when you start thinking about people you want to talk about, you think, I'm not going to do that. Lynn didn't have that filtration system in her brain. So if Lynn thought it, she said it. And we talked about that a lot because we went out to restaurants and different events together. And she might say anything to the waitress, just whatever she thought of. And so I said to her, don't do that. It embarrasses me. And she said, I can't help it. It's It's just the way I am. It's just the way I think. And if I think it, I'm going to say it before I forget it. And that's what she did. So I just tell you that so that if you was ever around her, she said something about lying, I just don't want you to think badly of her. I think you being here today proves that she was loved. This is Saturday. It's a nice day. You all could be somewhere else. But you all chose to come here to celebrate the life of my sister. And I asked the preacher if I could open it up to let you, her friends, express any feelings you have, tell any stories you want to tell. And at this time, I would just like for you to share. If any of you have a story you want to share, you don't have to come up here. You sit in your chair or you stand up. But if you have anything that you'd like to say or any story you'd like to tell, any good thing about Lynn, this is the time to do it. This is her life. This is her celebration. You're here to celebrate her life. So if anybody wants to say anything, feel free to say. Don't be embarrassed.
Larry, we went to one of their class reunions a while back. You and I were there. I forget who else, but anyway, Lynn came up to her and she said, "You know, you taught me how to drive a straight." It was in high school. She was a sweet girl.
Thank you, honey. Appreciate that. Anybody else?
She was like a sister to us. We grew up loving her very much. We had a lot of fun and crazy and wild times together. And she and your mom both instilled in me a love for gospel music. And I'm always be grateful for that.
Thank you, Mom. Right.
Your mom told me this story. Lynn was stopped by a policeman one time. And she told him, "Well, I just washed my car and I was going fast to drive."
That sounds like her. Anybody else?
Did he give her a ticket?
No. And sent her on her way.
Anybody? Thank you, Portia. Let me tell you about Portia. Now, Portia's told us about Lynn. When Lynn lost her driver's license 5 or 6 years ago, Portia would drive to the house and pick Lynn up, take her to the beauty shop and do her hair and bring her home. So you don't find many beauticians that'll do that, at least I'm not found any. But I appreciate all that your friendship meant to Lynn, and it meant a whole lot. And I appreciate everything that you did for her over the years. Yes.
Hi, my name is Loretta. I'm Portia's mom. I met Miss Diana one time. I heard so much about her when she come home from work. Mom, Miss Diana, Miss Diana. I got a call, she called Miss Diana. And she said, Mama,
Anything else? I want to thank all of you for coming. I especially want to thank George, her husband of 36 years. He took care of her when we didn't have somebody there during the day. He took care of her all night. It was hard for the last 6 to 8 months. And so I want to give thanks to George for sticking in there with her and taking care of her for those last few months. It was hard, I know. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.